but you get 3 guys on offense, you get 3 guys on defense, and what to watch. So we can elaborate on them in a bit, but let's start on the offense. You do offense 3, I'll do offense 3. Go ahead.
All right. So on the offense, first guy I'm taking is going to be Carlos Hyde. Second guy I am taking is going to be Laquan Treadwell. And the third guy I will be taking is going to be Colin Johnson.
Wow, okay. So you've got Hyde, Treadwell, Johnson. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, I've got my number 1, Travis Etienne.
Okay.
I'll elaborate in a bit. Number 2, Juwan Taylor at the right tackle position. I think he's going to get some work tomorrow and maybe quite a bit of work. And number 3, Laviska Shenault. He's been a star of camp. Can he be a star of the preseason game? So those are my 3 guys on offense. Let's elaborate a little bit.
Okay, first of all, we should elaborate by going over the criteria a little bit because the guys that I picked, I think, could have big games.
Okay, that's cool.
So here's where I'm coming from. One of the biggest surprises to me on the depth chart, and no, it wasn't even Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew because I figured that was going to happen because that's what Urban Meyer said was going to happen. But one of the biggest surprises to me on the depth chart was when it said James Robinson or Carlos Hyde.
Yeah.
Keep in mind who James Robinson is. This is last year he was a rookie, over 1,000 yards rushing. Probably should have been a Pro Bowler, but thanks to Josh Jacobs and the popularity vote, Josh Jacobs beat him out. But he was the biggest shining, cog on this team, if you will, on a machine that wasn't really running that well in terms of that offense. So you take a look at the depth chart, it says, or Carlos Hyde. Well, that means that Carlos Hyde has at least earned, some notoriety to be on the same conversation as James Robinson. Now, we've seen Carlos Hyde at practice. Yes, he looks pretty good. He looks fast, all this stuff. But if he truly is an or, if it's James Robinson or Carlos Hyde, well, then you better show me why you're an or next to James Robinson. So I think Carlos Hyde could get a lot of the backfield touches, and I think Carlos Hyde could have a pretty good game.
That's a really good thought, man. I like the way you're thinking. I can tell you this. They are going to – everybody I talk to says they want to run the football, And I understand every coach since the beginning of time has wanted to run the football. They are really going to pound it for a couple of reasons. One, because that's kind of what Urban has done anyway. He's always kind of preached it, and again, football guys do that. They have the ability. Their best player a year ago was James Robinson. Their draft pick was Travis Etienne. And you said Carlos Hyde. I think he's going to fit here. He likes Urban, Ohio State guy. He looks pretty good out there. No doubt about it. So they think they can attack people with their running back room right now. They think that's a strength. But the biggest reason why they are going to run the football is because they think that's the formula to protect the young quarterback. And Urban Meyer said it countless times. The best way to protect the quarterback, to ease him in, to get him acclimated, is to be able to run the football. And so you will see them run the football. I like your pick right there. It is kind of a sleepy, and I don't say that with a pun, by the way. It is kind of a – I really didn't do it on purpose, but I kind of caught myself.
Oh, for sure.
It is a sleepy thing on the depth chart that you noticed,
Yeah.
It is interesting. And I do think they want to use all 3. And I'll tell you what, man, I've said before, I like their depth even beyond that. A Zigbo, Ogunbowale. I mean, I don't know as much like Cottrell, but I think they've got guys in that running back room. I think it's an underrated room as a whole. It's not just James Robinson anymore.
No, it's not just James Robinson, even though, the guy had a hell of a rookie campaign. But, it's a good spot to be deep at just because if you have guys that can do different things, whether it is a Zigbo, whether it is a Ogunbowale, I think Ogunbowale is a little more, in terms of the pass game, he can be used as well. And then obviously you have Travis Etienne who, we'll see what he brings to the table. But overall, I just think that Carlos Hyde could probably get the most touches out of that backfield and maybe have the biggest day.
All right, so you also said Colin Johnson, and you said Laquan Treadwell.
Yes.
I like Laquan Treadwell because he's had a good camp, and I want to see if he can transfer it over. Colin Johnson's interesting. He's had some good days now, but he hasn't seemingly been kind of in the fold as much as maybe I thought he would in the first couple of weeks on the practice field.
So this is why I think they could both have good games. Number one, we hear nonstop Laquan Treadwell this, Laquan Treadwell that. That's great. That's fantastic. Former first-round pick, looks the part. But if you're going to keep him on this team, you have to see him in the preseason. And the only way to see him in the preseason, well, you have to give him the targets. So I think Urban Meyer could call, Treadwell's name a lot in this game just to see what this guy's got, just to see, if there is a spot ready for him. With Colin Johnson, yeah, he has been quiet. Now, we saw some promise last year, but once again, I don't think Urban Meyer and this regime really cares about last season. They care about the right now. So I think Colin Johnson has to prove himself a little bit. I think if we're talking about a team that's going to have maybe Gardner Minshew in the twos out there against a Browns team that's probably resting a lot of their guys, I think Colin Johnson could be a mismatch nightmare in the red zone and possibly get a touchdown. So I'm going to watch Colin Johnson as well.
All right. Real quick on my guys, okay? At Travis Etienne, he's been so dynamic at practice at times. I think he changes their offense maybe more than any other player, and that's why I do like the pick in hindsight of what they did there. Gives another weapon and makes their offense dynamic. I want to see some of that. Just give me a flash or two. We saw it inside the stadium the other day. We've seen it at practice a little bit. So show off Travis Etienne. Keep us feeling good about what he brings to the table. Juwan Taylor, I don't think I really have to explain this one. It's a huge year for Juwan Taylor. He needs to get a lot better. A bad year last year for the second-year player out of Florida. Now he goes into year 3, and they need him to be good. They might have Walker Little to be able to replace Cam Robinson down the road if they need to. They really don't have anybody like that on the right side. Now, I think Walker Little will probably be a swing guy. I don't think they want to go there. I think Juwan Taylor has talent. I think he needs to play well. It'd be nice for him to build some momentum. And Laviska Shenault, you can say he was maybe the star of camp to this point. And I just want to see if it translates. I want to see if he continues to take steps. It's probably going to be a small sample, but it was Marvin Jones that said, hey, this guy might be the most unique player there is in the NFL in the slot. What does that look like in a Darrell Bevell offense? What does it look like in this offense? Even if we just get the vanilla addition, I'm interested to see Laviska Shenault. Casey, I think you put together 3 on offense. What you got?
I'm going to give the people what they want, man. I want to see Tim Tebow out there. I want to see Walker Little out there. And I want to see C.J. Beathard out there because I want to know if he's a quality candidate to be the backup if they decide to move on from Gardner Minshew.
Not a bad call.
Yeah, that's good. And by the way, I think a lot of people would vote for Walker Little, even above Tebow, to be honest. What I'm interested about the Tebow thing is, you got to give that crowd Tebow, don't you? You have to give the crowd Tebow. Listen, we had a movie-esque game last night in baseball. We like this Hollywood stuff. Whether you do or not, Austin Lane, give the people Tim Tebow tomorrow for a couple of plays.